"Hold my baby, I'll sing," said the black unseen woman. When she lifted her voice, everyone cried, "Hold my baby, I will sing." Leah Monroe said the words softly. They carried through the grand hall with a quiet strength that made several heads turn. Her arms tightened around little Noah as she stepped inside the glittering event space. The warmth of chandeliers brushing over her worn coat and tired eyes. Conversation slowed. People stared. Their judgment traveled faster than whispers. Aaliyah knew this world well, even if it no longer welcomed her. Polished shoes, pearl necklaces, and tailored suits surrounded her, each pair of eyes asking the same question. What is she doing here? Noah clung to her shoulder, sensing the tension pressing in from every direction. Evelyn Blackthorn's voice sliced through the air before Aaliyah could take another step. Why is she here? And why has a homeless woman brought a child into a professional event? Her words floated across the hall with sharp elegance, loud enough for everyone to hear. Aaliyah felt dozens of eyes land on her, waiting for her to shrink, waiting for her to leave. Instead, she took a slow breath and reached out to the nearest woman who looked kind enough not to refuse. "Please," she whispered gently, placing Noah into her arms. "Hold my baby. I will sing." The room fell into a hush. Some smirked, expecting a disaster. Others exchanged amused glances. No one imagined what was coming. Aaliyah stepped forward, and the hall leaned in. Before the story continues, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring powerful stories like this to life. Aaliyah had not always walked into rooms where people doubted she belonged. There was a time when the same elite cultural center, now glaring at her, proudly displayed her picture in their hallway. Years ago, she had entered that institution as one of its brightest prodigies. Young woman with a voice powerful enough to silence chaos and lift hearts. Her education came from scholarships she earned through relentless practice, long nights, and a drive that no one could dim. Professors whispered her name as if it carried promise. Judges at competitions compared her raw tone to legends. She had been the kind of student they bragged about. Yet the moment she stepped into the center as an employee, everything changed. Aaliyah learned quickly that talent did not shield a black woman from the silent rules of the institution. She was expected to work twice as hard and receive half the credit. Her ideas were praised only when repeated by someone else. Her performances were introduced without enthusiasm, while others enjoyed applause before they even sang. Still, she remained steady, showing up early, leaving late, and pouring her soul into every rehearsal. She believed professionalism would win. She believed respect eventually arrived for those who deserved it. Evelyn Blackthorn made sure she understood otherwise. Evelyn wore elegance like armor. Behind the pearls and smooth tone was a quiet cruelty she only revealed to those she considered beneath her. From the first day, she spoke to Aaliyah as if she were an inconvenience. She questioned her credentials. She corrected her unnecessarily. She avoided using her name, choosing instead to say the vocalist. And whenever donors visited, Aaliyah was asked to stand discreetly in the background. Even though she was the reason many of them came, the moment everything changed came during a rehearsal for a major performance. Aaliyah had suggested a musical shift, nothing dramatic, just a subtle change that would strengthen the finale. The ensemble agreed enthusiastically. Evelyn did not. She walked up to Aaliyah in front of the entire choir and asked, "Who told you you could give instructions? Your place is to follow, not lead." Whispers spread through the room. Aaliyah felt heat build behind her eyes, but she swallowed it. She continued singing. That night, she went home and cried into Daniel's chest until her breath shook. He held her the way only a partner who had watched her break before could hold her. Daniel Monroe was a man of quiet strength, someone who supported her dreams even when the world threatened to crush them. But support at home could not protect her from what came next. A week later, Dr. Leonard Whitford called her into his office. His hands stayed folded, his expression stiff with forced sympathy. He spoke about image, donors, and unrest among the staff. Then he told her the board had concerns about her demeanor. He claimed there were complaints, none of which he could show her. He said her job was no longer secure. In the end, he fired her, not because she lacked talent, but because Evelyn insisted that Aaliyah did not fit the center's standard. She walked out of that office with a box of her belongings and a heart heavy enough to sink her. Losing her job set off a chain reaction. Daniel had recently been laid off as well, and rent quickly became impossible. They sold furniture, skipped meals, and stretched every dollar. When eviction finally came, they had nowhere left to go. Daniel searched for temporary work, but before he could stabilize anything, collapsed from exhaustion one night and never woke again. Aaliyah held Noah in her arms as grief swallowed her whole. Life pulled the ground from beneath her feet, and she found herself living from shelter to shelter, clutching her son and whatever hope she had left. Now, standing in this hall where she once belonged, every memory pressed against her ribs. Yet she had returned, not to beg, but to reclaim her voice. The sun had barely set when the grand hall of the cultural center began filling with well-dressed guests. Soft piano music echoed from the stage, and the banners hanging from the tall walls read, "Celebrating diversity, a night of inclusion." Anyone who didn't know the truth might have believed it. Aaliyah, sitting quietly in the back row, felt her stomach twist. She had once planned events like this. She had once stood on that same stage and spoken about art, history, and unity with glowing pride. But tonight, she wasn't here as a respected teacher. She wasn't even welcome. She was here as a woman who had been erased. As the room settled, Evelyn Blackthorne took the stage with her perfect posture and cold smile. She wore a sparkling silver gown, and her presence pulled every camera toward her. Tonight, Evelyn began, "We honor the brilliant voices that make our community rich. We stand for equality, support, and opportunity for all." Aaliyah's hands tightened around the edges of her seat. The hypocrisy burned inside her like fire. Opportunity for all? Not for her. Not for people who didn't fit their perfect image. Not for people the board chose to silence. Her breath shook, but she stood. At first, no one noticed. Then one person turned. Then another. A quiet ripple spread through the hall as they realized a thin, exhausted woman in a worn coat was rising to her feet. Aaliyah cleared her throat. "Excuse me," she said, her voice soft but steady. The room stilled. Evelyn's smile vanished. "Yes," Evelyn replied sharply, one eyebrow lifting. "This is not a moment for questions." Aaliyah swallowed. "I'm not here to ask a question. I'm here because you're celebrating diversity while destroying the people who actually represent it." A gasp moved across the audience like a wave. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "Security? No," Aaliyah said louder this time. "Don't silence me again." Her voice carried through the high ceilings and people turned their phones toward her. Some recognized her face from old posters and the hall posters the center had recently removed. Whispers spread fast. "Isn't that the history program director? I thought she moved away. What happened to her?" Evelyn let out a small laugh. "Aaliyah, dear, you shouldn't be here in your situation." The mocking tone sliced through Aaliyah's chest, but she held her ground. "You fired me because I stood up for students who were mistreated," Aaliyah said. "You said they didn't fit the image the board wanted. You told me to keep quiet or lose my job." Dr. Leonard Whitford, seated in the front row, shifted uncomfortably. He looked older. Thinner guilt had been eating him for months. He stood quickly and raised a hand. "Aaliyah, please step outside," he said quietly. "We can speak privately." "No," she said again. "Because when I spoke privately, you ignored me. When I told you Evelyn was targeting my students and threatening me, you said it would damage the board's reputation. And then you fired me to protect them." Phones kept recording. The tension in the air grew heavy, almost electric. Evelyn's face reddened. "This woman is unstable. She's spreading lies." Aaliyah shook her head. "Lies don't leave you homeless. Lies don't take everything you've worked for. Lies don't crush your life in one blow." Evelyn stepped toward the edge of the stage, her voice sharp. "You need to leave now. This event is not for people like me." Aaliyah interrupted. "Funny, I thought this night was about diversity." A few guests nodded quietly. Others lowered their eyes, suddenly unsure of the woman they once admired. Dr. Whitford walked closer, panic clear on his face. "Aaliyah, please. You're making a mistake. No, she said softly. The mistake was trusting all of you. She took a shaky breath. Her voice steadied. I haven't even told them the whole truth yet. The room froze. Cameras lifted higher. Someone whispered, "What truth?" And just like that, the hall shifted. Curiosity overtook discomfort. Aaliyah looked straight at Evelyn. I'm done being silent, she said. Tonight, everyone will finally know what you did. The crowd leaned forward. Evelyn stiffened. Dr. Whitford paled. And Aaliyah opened her mouth, ready to reveal the secret that would shatter the room. For a long moment, the hall was silent. Aaliyah stood in the center aisle, trembling but unbroken, her eyes locked on Evelyn. Gasps, whispers, and the glow of phone cameras filled the air. People sensed that something far bigger was coming, something they were not prepared for. Then the doors at the back of the hall swung open. Every head turned. Jada Ellison walked in with a confidence that cut through the room like a blade. She was dressed sharply, holding a thick black folder pressed against her chest. Her steps were steady, almost purposeful, as if she had been waiting for this exact moment to arrive. Evelyn's face drained of color. Dr. Whitford staggered backward. Aaliyah let out a shaky breath. Jada was the last person she expected to see. Sorry for being late, Jada said loudly, her voice echoing through the hall. I was busy collecting the truth. Murmurs broke out instantly. Jada moved toward the stage, ignoring the staff who tried to block her. She did not even slow down. She climbed onto the platform beside Evelyn, opened her folder, and held up the first printed email. I think everyone here deserves to know how this place actually works, she said, turning slowly so the audience could read. Let us start with hiring practices. The words on the screen behind her were harsh, bold, and impossible to spin. We cannot hire her. She is too urban. Find someone who fits the image. People gasped. Some covered their mouths. Others began recording closer, zooming in. Evelyn lunged forward. This is taken out of context. Jada smiled coldly. Do not worry. I brought plenty of context. She tapped her tablet, and another screenshot flashed on the large projector screen. Students like hers will bring the board's reputation down. Aaliyah felt her chest tighten. She remembered those meetings. She remembered being told she was overreacting. She remembered the quiet looks of pity from a few kind colleagues. Jada continued, her voice strong and steady. This was sent by Evelyn Blackthorne, the same woman who claimed this night was about diversity. Evelyn's hand shook. This is a violation of privacy. You cannot use stolen. These were sent to my work email, Jada replied. And I was part of the committee until you forced me out for questioning your decisions. The crowd erupted again. Dr. Whitford rushed toward the microphone, trying to calm everyone. Please, everyone, settle down. We will handle this internally. No, Jada said sharply. That is exactly what you said when Aaliyah came to you. You told her, let it go. The board will handle it internally. And instead, you fired her? Gasps filled the room. More phones lifted. Someone shouted, Is this true? Dr. Whitford's voice cracked. I was trying to protect the institution by destroying her. Jada snapped. Before he could answer, she pressed play on a voice memo. Evelyn's voice echoed loudly through the hall. Aaliyah is talented, yes? But she does not look like the face of our center. Replace her quietly. The hall exploded with shock. Some guests stood up. Others booed. A few reporters who had been lingering near the doors pushed inside, sensing a wildfire of a story. Evelyn staggered back, clutching the podium. Turn that off, now. But Jada did not stop. She played a second recording. This time, it was Dr. Whitford's voice. We cannot let her file a complaint. If she does, the press will tear us apart. The audience reacted instantly. A storm of voices rose angry, confused, betrayed. Dr. Whitford pressed his palm to his forehead. Please, everyone, let us just... You have lost control, Jada told him calmly. You lost it the moment you chose to protect your reputation over the people you were meant to serve. Outside the hall, more reporters gathered. Camera flashes shined through the glass. The scandal was already growing legs. Aaliyah stood frozen in the aisle, her breath trembling. She had never imagined this moment. Not like this. Not so public, not so explosive. Jada had not just defended her. She had opened the entire truth like a wound for the world to see. But something was missing. Something only Aaliyah could give voice to. Jada turned to her. "Aaliyah," she said softly, "they have heard the evidence. Now they need to hear you." The hall quieted again. Every phone pointed toward Aaliyah. Even Evelyn stopped speaking. Aaliyah felt her heart pounding, loud enough to hear in her ears. This was the moment. Her moment. The room waited, holding its breath. As Aaliyah finally prepared to speak her truth, a heavy stillness settled over the hall, the kind that presses against the skin and forces every breath to slow. The chaos from a moment ago faded into a strange, expectant quiet. The crowd stood frozen, as if their bodies understood something powerful was about to unfold, long before their minds could catch up. Aaliyah stepped forward slowly, her hands trembling at her sides. She looked around the room, the expensive gowns, the polished chandeliers, the same stage where she had once dreamed of singing with pride. Tonight, that dream felt bruised, battered and reshaped by pain she had never asked for. Her eyes drifted toward Noah. He was in the arms of a kind older woman in the third row, watching his mother with wide, trusting eyes. His tiny fingers curled toward her as if reaching for courage. That simple, innocent gesture grounded her. She inhaled deeply, letting the air settle into her chest. The room waited. No one whispered. No one blinked. Even the chandeliers seemed to glow softer. Aaliyah lifted her chin. Her voice began so gently that some people did not realize she was singing until the second note. It floated through the hall like a fragile memory being carried back home, soft but steady, raw but full of something ancient. She sang without music. She sang without fear. She sang as if her voice had been waiting years to be heard. The lyrics rose from a place deeper than her wounds. Words shaped by generations before her. Words shaped by nights she had cried quietly beside Noah, telling herself to hold on. Words shaped by every door slammed in her face. Every insult whispered behind her back. Every time she was told she was not the right image. Her voice grew stronger. A hush spread across the audience, pulling people into her world. Her melody wrapped itself around their ribs, their breath, their memories. It held them still. Faces softened. Rows blurred into silence. Men and women stood as if rooted to the floor. Aaliyah shifted into the heart of the song, and something inside her broke open, something tender and fierce all at once. Her voice cracked slightly, not from weakness, but from truth. That crack carried more power than any perfect note ever could. People felt it deeply. A young man in the front wiped his eyes. A couple near the back reached for each other's hands. Someone whispered, "My God," as if witnessing a miracle. Even Evelyn, who had spent her life hiding behind pride and prestige, stared at Aaliyah with trembling lips. Tears gathered on her lashes before she could stop them. Her breath shuddered as guilt crept through the cracks of her perfect mask. Dr. Whitford swallowed hard, trapped between shame and awe. Aaliyah closed her eyes as she reached the final verse. Her voice soared higher, carrying everything she had, endured betrayal, humiliation, strength, motherhood, hope. It was not just a performance. It was a release. It was a reclamation. When she opened her eyes again, she saw Noah smiling at her, as if he knew this moment belonged to her alone. Her final note hung in the air, trembling like a prayer suspended above the crowd. Silence followed. Real, breathless silence. Then the entire hall broke. Tears fell freely. People covered their mouths. Some bowed their heads. Others simply stared at her, stunned by the truth she had poured into every word. Aaliyah lowered her gaze, feeling her heart pound against her ribs. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. The auditorium felt heavier now, yet lighter at the same time. The room had witnessed something no one could deny. Murmurs rose, turning into open whispers, and then into questions that could not be ignored. The power that once seemed untouchable was unraveling before their eyes. Dr. Leonard Whitford, who had commanded respect for decades, could not hide the shame on his face. The board he had protected crumbled publicly. Evidence of bias, emails, and decisions that favored privilege over talent now circulated widely. Whispers of suspension and federal investigation followed him as he stepped back, pale and unsteady. Authority had finally met accountability. Evelyn Blackthorne tried to compose herself, her hands shaking as she held her notes. The proud, untouchable woman everyone had feared now faced the undeniable truth. The committee stripped her of her position. Her influence dissolved in the same hall where she had humiliated Alia months ago. Tears streaked her face, but no one offered comfort. This was not pity, it was justice. Through the chaos, a calm, confident presence approached the stage. Mr. Gabriel Ross, the owner of one of the largest recording labels in the country, had been watching the entire ordeal unfold. He stepped forward, his expression a mix of admiration and resolve. Leah's talent had not only survived scrutiny, it had demanded recognition. He extended a hand toward her, an offer that carried more than a contract. It was a promise that her voice, her story, and her dedication would finally be valued at the highest level. Leah accepted, her heart swelling with a sense of dignity she had not felt in years. The audience, still processing the dramatic exposure, looked on in awe. They saw not only a singer, but a woman whose courage had changed the rules of the game. Daniel, standing close by, smiled with pride, holding Noah's hand tightly. Every hardship, every moment of despair, had led to this undeniable victory. Aaliyah now walked among people who once doubted her, carrying herself with quiet confidence. Recognition, respect, and opportunity were finally hers. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of completion, not just for herself, but for every voice silenced by prejudice and narrow-minded tradition. This was more than a personal triumph. It was proof that injustice could be confronted, that talent could never be suppressed indefinitely, and that truth always found a way to rise above fear and false authority. 3 months had passed since the unforgettable night at the Cultural Center, but the echoes of that evening still resonated. Aaliyah Monroe now walked into a professional recording studio, her confidence radiating with every step. The space smelled of polished wood and fresh equipment, but it was her presence that seemed to fill the room. Noah played quietly in a corner, his laughter light and carefree, a reminder of the safety and stability they had both fought so hard to achieve. Every note Aaliyah sang carried the weight of her journey, years of training, struggle, and perseverance woven into melodies that no one could ignore. Her first album, Voices Unbroken, climbed the charts faster than anyone had predicted. Fans and critics alike were captivated not just by her technical skill, but by the raw honesty that infused every song. The single about confronting injustice and reclaiming her dignity soared to #1 across all platforms. A clip flashed. Across social media, Aaliyah holding a Grammy, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. Daniel and Noah stood beside her, their smiles wide and proud, embodying the triumph of love and perseverance over adversity. Every moment of humiliation and doubt now seemed to crystallize into purpose, a reminder that talent and truth cannot remain hidden forever. Aaliyah took a quiet breath, looking at the microphone before her. Her voice, once silenced by prejudice and fear, had not only survived, it had changed the world around her. And in that gentle, unassuming moment, she understood that victory was not about revenge. It was about proving that dignity, courage, and truth could echo louder than any attempt to suppress them. The journey had begun with a simple plea: "Hold my baby, I will sing." And now the world was listening.